Hey, tolerators, this is Natalie, and I'm just here with some quick updates that we've made recently to the podcast and our Patreon. You're going to want to follow the link in the show notes and in all of our bio information to our Patreon, where we are running a free trial on all three tiers. That will get you access to bonus episodes, bonus content, and most importantly, our new series, the Misogyny Meltdown series. That's where you'll find the video for our Misogynist of the Year awards and other episodes and content where I am helping us all spiral about the misogyny we live in. All of that information is in our show notes, and please make sure that you're following us on Men I've Tolerated Pod on Instagram, to All the Men I've Tolerated Before on YouTube, Natalie K124 on Instagram and TikTok, so you never miss any of these updates. Enjoy the episode, and I will see you next time. Hey, tolerators, this is To All the Men I've Tolerated Before with Natalie Katona, your weekly look at everyday misogyny. Today we have one of our favorite and most true guests, the Julia Washington from Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous, or our spinoff show, Still Comfy, where you hear us talk about our comfort movies like Mermaids with Cher, where I realized that a 14-year-old Winona Ryder had sex with a grown bus driver. Jules, thank you for being here to talk about Marginalized Joy.
I'm glad to be back. I love coming on your show because I love your show.
I love your show. Oh my God, that's so weird. I love our show.
I love our show too. Oh my God. It's so good.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Have I ever told you that you're my most favorite cousin and that you're so beautiful? I spent a weekend with
all these poor people who don't know what we're talking about.
Join the Patreon. Like, I live streamed my family funeral on the Patreon. Like, I was like, hey, everybody, it's just me at Aunt Rose's funeral.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Doing the good work.
Just out here doing the lowercase Lord's work.
I'm gonna keep that in. And then I hope that people do join the Patreon and they're like, did she live stream her aunt's funeral? We thought that Natalie respected death.
Gotta join the Patreon to find out.
You gotta join the Patreon to find out. I do respect death in the way that I respect anything that I long for every night as I lay me down to sleep. So people are going to be calling me after this episode to be like, are you good?
Are you okay? Blink twice if you need me to save you.
It's fine. It's called feminine joy. Stop marginalizing it. That's start there.
That's it.
Jules, I don't know if you're aware, but one of the ways that the patriarchy and misogyny tries to make sure that women feel small and insignificant and like they shouldn't vote for things or have body autonomy is by literally making sure that every twist and turn, should they feel happy, they're getting a slap on the wrist. Did you know this?
Oh, 100%. I feel like we touched on it in our Barbie episode.
That's so weird.
I feel like that's what spawned this idea.
Yeah. Oh, that's so weird. I do have on my outline the Barbie movie because honestly, the Barbie movie was pink, but it was also about misogyny and therefore men big mad.
Yeah. Somebody I truly love and respect was like, she saw it the first time and was like, oh my God, I loved it so much. I cried. It was so good. Da, da, da. And it's like, welcome, sister. And then she went back and took her husband. Big mistake. And she goes, oh, but then he ruined it for me because it's an attack on men and da da da. And I was like, oh, baby.
Oh, baby. Oh, baby, did you talk to a man? We would have told you not to.
I could have told you your husband was going to shit all over it. Because this person is one of those people who's all about, like, you know, yes, feminism, equality, but then is stuck in a box.
What if we just stopped dating men? Oh, wait, I did.
You did. I, however, can't control the carnal urges that I have when I see certain men. So I'm working on that. Therapy? Maybe I need a new kind of therapy.
Are they real men or are they just men on the TV?
I mean, it's a little of both.
Okay, valid.
Because I was in LA recently and I was like, oh, fucking forgot how hot the men are down here. Like, oh, you're cute. Let's go get drunk at a bar.
So I think
Wow.
so as you know, we're millennials and we're broken inside. Have you heard?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways that millennials have chosen to combat our brokenness is to nostalgically get things that we were either denied as children, like Barbie dream houses, or would have wanted as children, aka my Squishmallow collection.
Yes.
And I would like to say that I grew up in a household where men were just given toys left and right, like little figures for D&D. You like old men love to play with a remote control aircraft. Drones.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law got bows and arrows and rock'em sock'em robots and everything for Christmas, which my sister and I would then steal.
Yeah.
But anytime women buy themselves a toy or spend money on themselves, how dare, there's this like ridiculous pushback on it. Like, well, don't you think that's a little frivolous?
Yeah, and we've also been pigeonholed into the things that we should spend our money on are shoes and clothes, which is also deemed frivolous, and
Our
purses.
children.
Our children. Like, how many women do you know? I know a lot. I shouldn't buy this for myself. I really should be spending money on the kids. Ma'am, when's the last, like, because I like to get facials. I like to go get a massage once in a while. Like, and not even just facials because I want the spa day, but because sometimes you need an industrial strength person to remove the layers of trash off your skin because the environment is garbage now. But then it also just feels good. But like, you know, or I bought a new paint set. I was, oh my God, I could never. Or if we go shopping, like, you know, I moved into a house a year ago. I was like, well, you know, I wouldn't spend that kind of money, but you did just get a house. And it's like, I'm sorry, what? Like, what? Like, let me have this. Thank you.
And it is not my problem that everything that I love and hold true and is a hobby costs money. Like, that's not on me. I didn't create capitalism.
Right. It's not our fault. Don't fucking shit on my parade because some white men in a boardroom decided to charge me $35 for something that should be 10.
That should be 10. And I didn't create capitalism. It is not my fault that in order to do the things that I find fun, I have to buy supplies and shell out money, then put those supplies away, forget that they're there, start a new hobby, spend some more money. And that's not marginalized joy. That's just the ADHD cycle.
Right. Out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind. Everything in this house needs to be clear so I remember that I own it.
Yeah, like somebody the other day came over and was like, why is all your food on the counter? Why isn't it in the cabinets? And it's like, oh, your brain must be, quote, normal. Because the minute those boxes go in the cabinet, I'm going to forget I have them and buy all new food.
Yeah. Yeah. I buy 2 bags of shredded cheese every time I'm at the store. And then eventually one day I have 12 bags of shredded cheese. I'm like, why do I buy shredded? Because I'm so fearful of not having cheese in the house.
I understand.
What if I had to put cheese on something, did not have cheese in the house? That anarchy.
That's a crime. I mean, that feels criminal to me.
And it is. But as you know, this summer, I went to the Eras tour. And as you know, I didn't have my tickets until the very last minute because a man ruined it for me. You remember this day when I was just screaming at you, even though you weren't part of this?
No, but I felt your pain and I was like, man, I wish I was really wealthy so I could fix this.
Yeah, so, and it's fine because they're not going to listen to this, but basically what happened was I didn't get a code for the Eras Tour, which is big bad because I like to be in control of things because I'm the only person who can do anything right. That is my curse. That is the burden I bear. I am the only person who can do anything right.
I feel like it's a gift because when you finally visit me, I'm going to have everything planned and you're going to be like, somebody else take care of all of these things.
I'm going to get to turn off my brain.
Yes. And then I'm going to be like, yes, because my gift to you, because you're a gift to everybody else, is to plan your trip when you're here.
Why, thank you. I wake up the day of, and for whatever reason, we've decided to just take our chances with one code instead of the 2 or 3 codes that we had. And then I find out that someone has to go drop off their child at school, and therefore a husband has been put in charge of my Taylor Swift ticket. And I was like, don't let husbands touch the computer when we're trying to buy something, because this is what happens every time a husband is in charge of something that we want to do. They don't give a fuck about it.
Right.
When's the last time a husband cared about anything that would bring us joy? They don't.
I don't have a husband because I'm scared they would ruin my joy.
Right. I don't have a husband because I don't want him to ask what I'm running my credit card for. It's none of his business.
And vice versa. I don't need to know what you're running your credit card for, honey. Like, you do you, I do me. Let's make sure our bills get paid.
Stay out of my house. And Taylor Swift got a lot of slack because Ticketmaster created capitalism and made her tickets expensive. And people are like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? I was like, is the Super Bowl? I go,
fair.
Because you know what's not happening at the Taylor Swift concert? Sex trafficking. But do you know what happens every year at the Super Bowl? Sex trafficking. I read one Google article about it. And that's my stance. That everyone should have gotten off my back about how much the Taylor Swift concert cost because I didn't get harassed there. And it just boggles because, of course, the husband didn't care about our fun. And, like, here's the thing.
Like, where's the cheapest tickets? Let's put these there.
2 out of 3 of us were willing to sell our homes to go because that is how the mania hit, and it hit hard.
Well, I hear it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Well, and then she was like, what if I did a second leg? Twice in a lifetime opportunity. But whatever. She's smart. She capitalism, Barbie. So some of us had already put our kidneys on the black market to go. And some of us listened to men. And therefore, tickets would appear in our cart, and then someone who wasn't even involved in our concert would go, that's really expensive. And then we would debate back and forth. Meanwhile, I don't know that I'm on speaker with a man, so I'm screaming, who let a man in the room? Who let a man involved in the Eras Tour? Men have no place at the Eras Tour. So we didn't get tickets that day. We did not get tickets that day. And then I took to the bed, and all I could think about when I could finally categorize my feelings about this is that no one questions men when they spend money on recreation.
Or in general.
Like,
I have life examples. So years ago, I had this really good friend. We grew up together. We reconnected when she moved back to California. She's dating. This woman is fucking beautiful.
Of course she is.
She's dating the most basic white boy from a cowboy town nearby. He gets a massive DUI, which then loses him his job with a gas company here in California because they have a very strict policy about your driving record because they have company issued vehicles. Okay. So this was going to be a life-changing job for them. He gets a DUI, loses that job, has tens of thousands of dollars in fees. She gets one ticket, and he's like, you're not allowed to drive. I'm not putting you on the car insurance anymore. What? So when she tells me this, because then it turns into, well, now you have to come pick me up if we want to hang out and do stuff. Fine. But also, do you see the problem?
That's spousal abuse.
Because your husband literally just fucking ruined your lives financially and lost his job and is going to have a hard time getting a job in the trade he trained for because he has to have a clean driving record, and you're not allowed to drive because you got one ticket that costs $50 fucking.
Number one, that's spousal abuse. That's not even like he razzed her a little hard or it's become some big family legend joke or whatever the fuck my family would do in that situation. That's like literal abuse.
And I don't know how it is in other states. I'm sure it's probably true in other states. In California, it is the law to have car insurance. Like, any licensed driver is technically required to carry the limited level or whatever.
What is car insurance for? Because every time I go, I could totally use insurance for that, some man is like, you can't just use your insurance. And I'm like, what do you mean I can't just use my insurance? The monthly premium will go up if you dare don't even log into the app. And I'm like, okay, then what is it for?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the extreme side of it, where it's just like, no, you just cost the family a life-altering event in a way that could have, like, been for the better, but she ain't allowed to drive. Like, make it make sense. She didn't like it when I brought it up. They never like it when I bring these things up because I'm the man hater, which is a lie. Natalie, you and I both know I open a lot of messages to you with, I know you're going to disagree, but hear me out. And then I go on some sort of like
apology tour
for men, or like a specific
men at large,
or a specific one or a specific man in particular, because I still love men.
Yeah, and I told you that, like, Jules, did you know that, like, you could get a suction cup one and then you just put it on the shower? Okay, they make that. I didn't know if you knew. Do you know what else I'm tired of? I'm tired of women congregating in one place and cracking jokes and being fun and wooing it up and getting drinks or whatever, and then fangirling at the Barbie or the Taylor Swift concert and then being told that we're insane. Look at those girls over there. They're insane. Women are so much work.
Or, like, in the case of being Black, too loud.
Oh, sassy? Sassy.
You're being a little sassy. You guys are too loud. Can you please? And, like, I don't know if this made national news, but we had an incident here in California where a group of Black women went to a winery, having a great time, living their best life, because that's what women do. Joyful beyond all get out.
Yes.
Girls Day 100%. And they were asked to leave because they were being too loud. The wine tasting's outside.
It's outside. We are outside. There's no noise level for outside.
And it was like, okay, like, and for me, it was like, that they are being targeted because they are Black. Because did they ask any of the other groups to leave who were probably also doing the same exact thing? No.
I was at a restaurant with my coworkers when I was the only white person in my, department. And we went out to lunch. And by lunch, I mean it was 4 p.m. because they wouldn't let us actually take a break.
Oh, that's not legal.
And that's not legal. And we went and we were at a restaurant and we were whooping it up. We were like, having a great time. And we were laughing and stuff. And an old white man came to our table. And I think this is actually worse if instead he had just told us he was going to management or whatever. Somehow this made me feel worse. An old white man came up to the table and he's like, hey, I just want to let you guys know that I'm moving me and my wife somewhere else, but it literally has nothing to do with you. I just want to be able to hear the TV. And and I'm just side-eyeing him. I'm like, what the fuck is this old white man trying to get at? Because
is he trying to be like, I'm not moving because your group is Black?
Right, I'm not moving because your group is Black and loud and Black, if you will.
Oh my God. It's like he's trying to be an ally.
He's trying so hard. He's like, hey, this has nothing to do with the color of your skin. You're just obnoxious as hell. And I'm just like, I'm making my dumb head tilt. Like, what the fuck is this white man getting at? Like, I'm gonna have to fight. and as the sole white person at the table, I'm like, don't worry, I've got it. I'm a fight.
Coach.
I'm a fight.
Yeah.
And then he wanders away. And then everyone has to turn to me, Whitey, and be like, you know what was happening there, right? Yes, I know what was happening there. I live in this world.
I live in this world. And you're not blind to it, because there are a lot of white people that are, sorry, white people who are listening.
Well,
I need you to wake up.
And as you know, I think the difference is, and we've talked about how I grew up in a family that was very loud and where the women were always in charge and always the loudest.
Yeah, same. I mean, when people find out in Black and Italian, they're like, oh, your family reunions, huh? And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, yeah, but also fuck you for saying that. But also, yes.
And we've talked about the Croatian of it all. Mm-hmm. And like whether or not that has merit for me to experience the things that I experience or to be a little bit more aware of the things that I'm aware of. And I mean, we haven't gotten kicked out of restaurants before, but we've also been very mindful of like telling the hostess or something like, hey, you're going to want to put us in a back room. If there's a room with an extra wall, that's where you're going to want to have us. That's where we're going to have to go. And I was at a family function this last weekend, and a cousin and I were joking about how my family would make a great sitcom. And one of my cousin's wives, who I don't spend that much time with, but I was having a little one-on-one time with, she went, oh, speaking of like how women hate themselves for being joyful or happy or having needs, she just went, oh, I just know that when you write the TV show, you're going to make me out to be the worst character. Number one, you're my third cousin. Who says you're making the cut? But also, number two, she's like, I just know, and then everyone will know that I'm the worst in this family. And I looked at her, I go, meanwhile, my drunk-ass male cousins are like headbutting one another in the yard.
Without helmets.
Without helmets. There was caramel apple moonshine. They're literally just like doing feats of strength in the yard.
Oh my God. I need to come to a family reunion.
You know when like rams just like lock heads? That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Just in a circle. And I was like, hey girlfriend, hey love, do you think out of everyone in this yard, it's going to be you that I have material on? Number one, you married into my family. Maybe that is my material on you, that you were dumb enough to marry into my family and choose this. I was just born into this legacy.
Yeah. This is my bloodline.
This is my bloodline? This
and
is
now your children's bloodline.
Right. This is just my legacy.
Yeah.
But I was like, I think you're going to be real chill. Everything's going to be good for you. I was like, I'm probably going to write an entire episode. I just point at some random cousin. And I'm like, I'll probably write an entire episode, though, about how I almost had to fight that one in the yard for calling his girlfriend, now wife, dirty names in front of me. And none of my uncles would kick his ass. So I was like, I'll kick your ass. I'll kick your ass. Shut your motherfucking mouth. Trying to show off for your little boyfriends. And then I looked each one of his little dudes in the eye. And I was like, hey, you impressed? And then they got scared. They were like, oh, family's scary.
Ooh.
I was like, I'll kick your ass in front of all of them right now, and then I will pack her up and put her in my car. And we will move away from you.
What is it about wanting to cut us at the quick when it comes to our expression and joy? Like, that's the thing that I get stuck on all the time, because I love seeing people being happy. I love seeing people enjoying life.
Yeah.
So what is it about, like, the people who want to like come in and like put you in your place about your joy and happiness that gets them off? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm pretty sure.
Is it power?
Well, yes. So I think what it is down at the very core of it is, if I'm happy because of Taylor Swift, or if I'm happy because all of me and my aunties are in some knitting circle, or if I'm whooping it up with my coworkers or whatever, I'm happy outside of you. Men have yet to like catch up on the how will they make us happy parameter, because they've never had to try hard. And now there are more avenues for me to be happy without them. And therefore they become like 10th on a row of 12 things that I could choose from.
So it falls all the way back into the whole structures of patriarchy, which is we are only here to exist to uphold you. And then you add that layer of racism. We are only here to be property so you can build your capital.
Yes.
So that's the root cause. Okay.
Yes.
So that is incredibly frustrating because it falls in line with the whole, like, you did something for centuries, and then when you released us,
Yeah.
Black people, and then you're like mad because we can't, quote, figure it out. It's like, well, we have centuries of deprogramming and trauma to work through. So no, we won't stop talking about it. And then for women, it's like, well, we can actually like hold property now and like jobs now. So no, we're not gonna forget about it.
Basically. Because you remember when I almost drowned myself in a pool because I was proud of myself, and a man I was sleeping with said, I thought no one liked you.
Oh my God.
And like, if that's not the biggest theme of my childhood, of me being proud of myself, and then some man or some misogynistic woman coming in right over my shoulder to just like whisper in my ear, hey, no one likes you.
I had an experience when I was in junior college, and my son was little, and I was looking at transferring, and I saw that Columbia had a really strong writing program. And I was like, oh, I have family on the East Coast. Like, it wouldn't be completely out of the blue if I decided to go to school in New York and then like visited family that lived in New Jersey and other areas of the East Coast. And we're at this bar one night because our friend's band was playing, and I was talking about, it's like, oh yeah, I'm looking into, what I need to do to transfer to Columbia. Like, what are the requirements as a transfer student, like with GPA, classes, blah, blah. Mind you, now I had been actively writing, like my writing has changed over the years, but like I was actively writing a short story every week. I was taking writing classes. This was like a period of time. I think it was like 25 or 26 years old. It was like, this is going to be the career I'm pursuing. This guy who I used to think was hot until he said these very words to me. You think you can get into Columbia?
Oh, Jules, did you think highly of yourself for a moment?
And I was like, you don't think I can? And it was like a literal standoff. And because of other issues that were happening at the time, I never tried. And there's compounded issues because 26 was not a good year.
There are always compounded issues. Like, the reason I'm not a marine biologist or a veterinarian or a history teacher or whatever is because a woman who upheld patriarchal values or a white man told me I wouldn't be good at it.
Yeah. And I'm so impressed with the people who hear those negative things out of other people's mouths and go, challenge accepted, and do it anyway. Because one of the things that I do kind of regret is not applying to all of the universities that I looked into back then, because I don't have an on-campus college experience outside of junior college, and that is a regret for me. Like, I wouldn't be as angry about my student loans had I made like true friends and connections through university. I did the introvert's guide to getting a degree. But so then like, I want to say maybe like at my birthday this past year, I did go through all the things that people said to me and how I let it influence and impact me. And the decisions I ended up making for my life. And I spent some time sitting in embarrassment and shame for allowing that to impact me. And then, as you know, now I no longer give a fuck because I did everything I was supposed to do and was told to do, and none of it worked out. Yeah. So now I'm just doing whatever the fuck I want for my career. But it's like, how dare you say that to me? Like, how dare you say that to anybody? You think you're good enough to get into Columbia? And if the tone was different, maybe the conversation would have gone differently. But it was very much, he didn't think I was a smart woman. He only saw me as a beautiful piece of ass. So for me to say that I would like to go to Columbia was like, you little girl, I'm just gonna fuck you later. So I can't believe you said that. Which, no, we did not engage. Because after you say things like that to me, you're dead to me.
Dead. So what this is bringing up for me, that one of the handhelds that is true is not only is feminine and women being joyful a threat. But when we take that joy and we actually have pride within ourselves, holy hell does the fragility just boil and come to a rise in a room. Because as a child, I was surrounded by loud people who were proud. I mean, when I came back from the funeral, I told you, I was like, no matter what cousin it is, no matter what family member it is, they walk up to you and they're like, oh my God, you're my fucking favorite. You've always been my favorite. You're the most beautiful and smartest person that I've ever looked at. So I grew up with that mindset that I was beautiful and the smartest and the favorite. And I had great uncles who cried at the mere thought and sight of me because I was so beautiful and perfect and smart. And then I had other men in my life who were very insecure. So their fear response was to always go, couldn't you just run your mouth a little bit less and be a little bit more humble? But I don't ever see little boys being told to be humble.
Right. There's a lot of ego boosting for look at what you did.
Oh my God, you're so strong.
Yeah.
You're so strong. You're so funny.
Like, I'm not opposed to telling little girls they're pretty, but I'm also going to add something else to it, right? Because, like, I know we're not supposed to comment on people's looks, but I fucking love being told I look pretty. I love being told I look amazing. I fucking love it. Sorry, you were going to make a point. Go ahead.
No, as you know, my favorite part of the Barbie movie was actually when I was walking back to my car and 3 women stopped to tell me that my outfit was perfect and I was the most beautiful Barbie they've ever seen.
Yes.
And I
love it. I love it.
I was like, I've literally forgotten what the entire movie was about because I'm pretty.
I love it.
And I love when my moronic family gets into a room and we just shout at everyone about how beautiful we are.
I mean, truly. Like, I think I texted you maybe I texted somebody else, but the family pics came in from our family event over the summer, and I was like, look at all these gorgeous people.
God, we're the most beautiful family in the entire world.
I'm going to get this one printed and framed and maybe enlarged, and that's going to be the first thing you see when you walk into my house.
And the best is, like, when we finally get the wherewithal to take a family photo, it's 9 p.m., we're all blasted, and we can barely, like, arrange ourselves into some sort of line.
My cousin's wife is very good at making sure we do it all before anybody starts.
And God bless her. I grew up in a household where my only messaging ever, if I was having and I didn't have very many days where I felt good about myself. As we know, humor is usually a coping mechanism for hating yourself.
Right.
So it was just my self-defense mechanism, but I was told as a child all the time, just be more humble.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the person who's always talking in the room. Don't bother your aunts and uncles. They don't want to hear about your school. Don't bother them. Why are you bothering people? And eventually, when I moved out of that mindset, my mindset switched to how fucking dare you tell me that I don't deserve space within my own family, within my own career, within my own life. But when you're a kid and all you're hearing is stop bothering people.
Right.
No, your grandma does not want to talk to you. I'm talking to grandma. Go away. Hey, you just are made to feel like, oh, I'll just go shirk in this corner. And no wonder women only feel validated when someone looks at them. People aren't ever looking at us when we're kids.
When people do that in my life to the children in my life now, I always in a hushed tone explain to them that it's not about them, and just because whenever anybody says stuff like that, it makes me feel like I'm 6 years old again. And I hate that feeling. Like, it sucks. And I've told you this too. Like, when you walk into my house, you will not be treated like a burden, because I have that experience now in adulthood and I fucking hate it. And then when I realized, oh, that's a huge part of my life that I sort of had blocked out, and it came back to my forefront of memories, I was like, not in my house. We're not doing that shit. Nobody who comes and sets foot in my door is not going to feel welcomed.
We're not telling anyone to shut up.
We're not telling anyone to shut up. If they want to have a conversation with you, you need to say, excuse me, let me finish this conversation, and then I will have a conversation with, if it's a child. because that's my biggest thing. Like, we had a family member, the littlest daughter was, wanted attention at the dinner table. And she's starting to tell stories about the other members in her family unit. And those members are just, shut up, just shut up. Why are you still talking? Just shut up. So I looked at her and I said, honey, they don't want you to, like, who's this story about? And she was like, well, my sister. And I said, okay, then your sister needs to be the one to tell that story. And she doesn't want that story told. So I think you need to find something else to tell us. And she got quiet and she thought about it. And then she found a story about herself to tell. But everyone else in that family unit was telling her to shut up. And there's no reason for, you know what I mean? Like, there's no reason behind. So I explained it to her. I think she was 10 at the time. She understood it and then picked a different thing to talk about because they're yelling at her to shut up. And all I'm feeling in my own self, which means I should probably go and get more therapy, is all of my family members telling me to shut up, telling me I'm too loud, telling me that I need to stop and go away. Not all of my family members.
The louder of the family members.
Select few.
The ones that for whatever reason we hunt our entire hopes and dreams on their opinion of us. Well, because I was also that kid. I was a kid who witnessed a lot of storytelling being brought up. And I think my aunt said something about like, well, if only any of us had been talented or whatever. And I went, excuse me, where do you think I get my comedic timing and my ability to craft a story? I go, because we're still cave people sitting around a fire just telling the hits in the round. Like,
isn't that funny how that's what we end up doing regardless of how much technology exists? Go ahead.
So I grew up going to weddings, funerals, barbecues, Saturday nights at my aunt's or whatever, just listening to stories. And they were always the same stories all the time. So then eventually you're a child who understands comedic timing, comedic beats, and plot points. So then you feel like you should be welcomed into the experience because this is an experience that you are actively a part of. But everyone else is so wrapped up in getting to be the person who hits the joke or getting to be the person who corrects someone about the story or whatever, that when you're a kid that's just being like, and then grandpa, you're like, you don't even know grandpa. Okay, that's true. Grandpa did die before I was born, but thank you for bringing that up. Like, may he rest in peace. And so it becomes very confusing as a kid because you're like, I thought that this was a part of our family unit. And when you tell me that I can't take part in it, you're kind of telling me that I can't be part of the family unit. And I think that we're given that message a lot when it comes to just like joy in general, where it's like joy is only for a certain amount of people. It's for people who fit a very heteronormative white people mold. The American dream is built on the idea that we should all be white and male and rich.
Because they deserve to have the joy. Anybody else is not deserving because you didn't work hard enough to exploit other people.
They worked so hard, Jules, colonizing all of those countries.
I mean, it's really hard to take out nations of people, apparently.
And there's such a backlash currently going on. Like, okay, I tried to start up this conversation with people about Rachel Ziegler and the Snow White discourse.
Oh, I'm so, like, that discourse is so dumb to me. Like,
here's this young girl. It's her second, maybe third big movie role. And she's like the lead. And she's been the lead in Maria in West Side Story. Like, she is at the burgeoning of her career taking off.
Yeah, she's going to be in the Hunger Games prequel movie, right? Yeah.
And for whatever reason, she's allowed to do press for Snow White and it not be crossing a picket line, which I guess is none of my business. Maybe all of the stuff I'm seeing is old press. I don't know. You can tell that she's like manically proud of this movie that she's made and this character that she got to craft or whatever. And she's like, yeah, she's a girl's girl. She wants to run her kingdom. She wants to learn politics. She wants to be the ruler of her kingdom. She's not taking a nap and waiting for some prince to molest her or whatever. And she's just so manically excited. And Gal Gadot's in the background going, yeah, we don't need no prince. And all of these basic white ladies who I guess hung their hopes and dreams on the fact that one day they would take a nap and a man would kiss them and all of their problems would be better.
That's called assault.
Yeah, that's called assault. All of these women are like, why even call it Snow White if it's not going to be upholding the Snow White narrative and the original beautiful story about that 15-year-old taking a nap and being molested.
You know what's even more gross about it is that one of Disney's descendants got in on the conversation. And then two, we all know that Disney took all of these stories from the original storyteller and distilled them down to make them these like happy, beautiful fairy tales. We just recorded about Rapunzel on my show. It hasn't aired yet, and I don't know when this is going to air, so I don't know. It doesn't matter. The point is, and we talked about the original story of Rapunzel versus Tangled.
And I love Tangled.
Tangled's a great movie, and it was a joy to discuss, but it was also this moment of like, yeah, you can't, how are you going to tell the original story of Rapunzel in this modern era? Like, it is like, now I know why I'm terrified of falling into like rose bushes, right? Like that, it reminded me that I don't like being near rose bushes.
And here's something that boggles my mind. I was like, so no one ever thought that it was ridiculous that Tom Cruise at this day of age would get into another fighter plane and highway to the danger zone.
22-year-old.
I'll be these 20. I'm Tom motherfucking Cruise.
I'm Maverick.
I'm Maverick.
But back to your Snow White point, like if you get into the true story of like the Little Mermaid, the Beauty and the Beast, Little Red Riding Hood,
that's about grape.
They're all very graphic. I mean, like these the Brothers Grimm. It's almost like Grimm is right. The story of the Little Mermaid is so grotesque because of the way that they describe how she becomes human in the end.
Yeah, they slice her fin in half.
Yeah, there's a reason Disney was like, we're gonna make this a little bit more palatable.
Pretty.
Like, that's what they do. So everyone who's like hinging on the Snow White Disney version, I need them to take a children's literature class, get the Norton Anthology of Children's Literature, and do some fucking reading.
So here's the thing. My hero, Brendan Lee Mulligan, he did an entire season on Dimension 20. It was spooky fairy tales, and it was the Never After. And he, like myself, is a scholar in fairy tales. So he would tell the grotesque versions and then wrap that into the horror of the season.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
I know, because he's my hero. And the thing of it is that, like, we have fairy tales, not because we were trying to get women to conform to misogyny and patriarchal norms and capitalism and whiteness. We have fairy tales because we were trying to scare the shit out of kids into behaving. It's like, hey,
correct.
I dare you to not listen to me and walk off that fucking path and go into the woods. A wolf is going to eat you. And that will be the nicest thing that he does.
There, in one of my classes, we read 3 different versions of Red Riding Hood. And the one that I can't get out of my head, warning right now, not great. She gets eaten by the wolf, and then she just, like, stabs her way out.
Like a badass.
Like a badass. And I was like, well, I didn't read about this when I was 6.
My dad actually did give me the original Grimm fairy tales when I was a kid, and maybe that's why I'm fucked. But,
or maybe that's why it was hard to keep you programmed.
Maybe. But here's Rachel Ziegler. She's a young woman. She's just trying to be proud of her work. And everyone is coming for her and being like, you're being disrespectful. Ugh, and she's so like, dumb. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I was trying to be proud of the work that Disney paid me to do. And they're like, you're a blight on the Disney name. I was like, cool, thanks. You know, we have an entire TV show on Hulu called Shrill. And it's about how fat women aren't allowed to be joyful.
A book by
Lindsay West. We're like, when we don't fit into these very white, very capitalistic, very male-centric norms, if I'm not a sex figure, if I'm not Jessica Rabbit, and you don't get hard when you look at me, then I don't deserve to smile. But I'm also murdered if I don't smile. So it's very confusing.
One of the things that I love that came out of them making Shrill, so in the first season, they have this big pool party, and all the women are of varying shapes and sizes, varying colors, varying abilities. Those women kept that party going every year since they filmed the first season. And I fucking love that because it's like saying, because Shrill basically was like, here's what we need from you for our show. And they're like, cool, we're into it. And then when they did it, they were like, this is the best thing ever. Why haven't we been doing this all the time? Probably because everyone's telling you you take up too much space and you're not allowed to have any fun. And then continue to do it. Like, that's the kind of shit I love, because it's like you're saying, it's not like you're saying, they are saying, this was fun. We deserve it. Fuck all y'all. Party every year.
So a lot of women have crowd anxiety, believe it or not. They have being in public anxiety. And one of the things that came out of that pool party and the Eras tour and just being in spaces where feminine joy wasn't tampered with or dampened down or ridiculed or put us in danger is that women were like, I'm not afraid of crowds. I'm not afraid of being in my bathing suit. I'm fucking afraid of men because we removed them out of the equation. Or we made so few of them feel welcomed in that space that they didn't come in their normal numbers. And therefore, there was no one. I mean, you said it during the Barbie movie that you watched a woman only laugh when her husband was in the bathroom.
Right.
And like, honestly, we should have given her a business card. We should have been like, come to the team.
I do think about it when I'm in that theater. I'm always just like, I should have said something to her. Like, I should have been like, do you need an exit route? Blink twice. Because it does make me sad, because you and I've had this conversation multiple times, and I've had this conversation with a former guest / friend of mine, Nikki, on my show. I do not want my space to be a space where I can't experience love, joy, happiness, sadness without being ridiculed. Like, if you make me feel tense, then I can't have you in the space where I'm living.
And I don't want you here.
Like, that's not healthy. That's not okay. I dated a guy one time. All we did was bicker, and it was hot in the beginning. But then after a while, it was like, this is exhausting. Like, my parents have been doing this for 50 fucking years. I don't want it. And he's like, and then he started bickering with me about the fact that I didn't want to bicker anymore. And I was like trying to break it off with him.
You're like, this is toxic.
And he was fine. And it was just like, listen, I just can't, like, this is exhausting. I do not want to feel drained by the time I get home. I want to go home and experience home joy. And you're not contributing to that. And yeah, and it just ended up being a whole thing. And then he turned out to be somebody who thought the vaccine was bullshit.
Dodged a bullet. You dodged it. And then if people would like to know how this idea that marginalized joy, but what about me? I'm not a marginalized community. I'm straight and white and beautiful. Cool. Should you ever become unemployed, or should you ever have to rely on public assistance, or should you ever go through an emergency that wipes your savings? I don't know if you've realized this, but people in poverty also aren't allowed to experience joy. And in fact, every time someone buys his freeze pops with their food stamps, there's some bitchy lady in the line to be like, oh, so I see that my taxpayers' dollars went to make sure that your kid got a cake mix. That's cute, because poor kids aren't allowed to have birthdays.
Right. Or shoes or that weren't from Payless, which I don't think exists anymore.
No.
Or, you know what I mean? It's just like this whole concept of like bootstraps. I worked really hard, so I deserve all these things. What have you done to deserve anything? Mentality is so toxic and gets really in the way of like people having empathy and understanding for a lot of things. Like, there was a period of time where Black people could not congregate together more than like 3 at a time.
Because it was illegal.
Yeah, so like, excuse me if we want to get together and have a celebration. We were robbed of that right for centuries.
It's just, of all of the stupid things that we could be gatekeeping, we were just like, what if we gatekeeped like smiling?
Right. And then have the audacity to say, girl, smile today. Girl, why aren't you smiling? You need to smile more.
Because we're only allowed to smile on their terms when it's for their comfort and for their dicks. And people of color are only allowed to smile and have joy if it makes the white people in the room feel a little bit more comfortable and a little less racist.
Right. Right. I'm sorry, it's not my fault that you feel guilty for the past. Like, that's your business. You need to work through that.
And fat people are only allowed to be happy if they've lost a couple pounds. Or if someone's misassumed that they've gotten skinnier.
I literally went on last night on stories on close friends because it's all people I know I in real life or talk to or have talked to and have had vulnerable conversations with. We got the family pictures back and I told you, it's like, oh my God, my family's gorgeous. They're beautiful. I love them. And then I zeroed in on myself and I was like, what is that's happening there? Because in my head, I'm still working on the deprogramming of what our bodies are supposed to look like. And I've always been a person who's like, oh, I gained 10 pounds, easy fix. I can just like switch my diet real quick, do a workout for 3 months and it's gone. It'll be fine. Like my body's always responded really well to exercise. Like I did a boot camp one time and I lost like 15 pounds in a 6-week boot camp. And people were like, fuck you. That was so easy for you. It's like, I've always worked out. Like I trained in dance from 4 years old until 18 and I was a runner. Like my body's like, you're not working out, you're gonna die kind of. And then I went through a serious depression in grad school and gained a bunch of weight and then COVID. And so like now I'm like, but I've been working out. Why isn't it working? Like I've been working out for almost 2 years. In my head, I don't look like that, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the size of my body. I can outrun a zombie apocalypse if I need to. Like, that's what matters. I can bend and twist in ways so that way if I have to climb something and maneuver into like a weird crawl space, I can do it. Like, so there's still like that cuckold of just like, you need to be able to buy size medium and size 8 wherever you go. No, you don't. No, you don't. But it really did like hit me in the face last night when I was looking at the photos because it was just like, again, I'm doing all the things that people are telling me to do so I can look hot, and I felt like it wasn't working, but that's not looking like I still look hot. Like I still look hot. It just doesn't look like, Heidi Klum hot. There's all varying degrees of hotness.
Yeah, diet culture is a sham to sell you Diet Coke and those 100-calorie snack packs.
Because I'm going to eat 6 of them because they leave me fucking hungry.
Are there any other points that you wanted to hit on when it comes to marginalized joy and why it's a form of the patriarchy that we need to all be aware of? Because sometimes we just think that like, oh, we should be humble. Like we've taken it on like they're parables and that they're like actually attributes of a good and healthy person.
Because that's the bullshit we're being told. Like, how dare you be proud of yourself? Like, in the Barbie movie is a perfect example of that. And I know we've already talked about the Barbie movie. Everyone go back and listen to that episode because I'm getting feedback that it was amazing. But when Nobel Peace Prize Barbie wins her Nobel writing, literature, whatever. When writer Barbie gets her Nobel, she's like, I earned this and I deserve it. I worked hard. We don't give anybody, unless they're a white, cis, hetero male, that grace to be able to say, I deserve this. I earned it. Because what happens is we force people into this humility so that way when we finally do stick up for ourselves and say, I deserve this, it comes out sounding like I'm a brat because you didn't even let me have the space to say, no, I deserve it. I'm going to do it. It's a good thing. And we're made to feel guilty to do anything for ourselves that we feel like we deserve that isn't a necessity to survive. Why do you think you deserve that? Like, how many times have you heard that and you're just like, I don't want to have to justify that, but now I'm on the spot and like, fuck you.
Well, remember when I had a family member die and then felt like I had to go on a PR tour on why I deserved to be at the funeral? I deserve to grieve. I have memories and I deserve to grieve. And
yeah,
and every deprogrammed person I talked to went, yeah, no. If you want to grieve, you deserve that process.
100%.
Meanwhile, other people who are like living in shame or whatever is like, I don't know, are people going to want to deal with you? As we were doing this episode, I started running through the deadly sins in my head because, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
I was ruined not only by capitalism, but by Catholicism.
Yes.
And now I need a deprogrammed Catholic to come on and talk about how all of the deadly sins are just like an agenda to make sure that we don't think for ourselves.
Yes.
Like,
100%. Yes. And it's all in the name of humility.
ugh. You know, it's my trigger word. I'm like, no, I can't be humble. I refuse. I refuse.
And there are moments, I know my place when I'm not going to talk because this is not a safe space. This in here is a safe space for me to talk, but like outside of this room. And that's the difference, I think, too, where I'm just like, I know better. I'm not talking. I don't have the energy for you people who aren't deprogrammed.
So I guess let's move into like big takeaways and manifestations.
My biggest takeaway today, Natalie, is realizing just how much blocking joy is rooted in control and patriarchy. Like, I think intrinsically I knew it. I think deep down I knew it. But today we verbalized it and said it out loud and it hit me.
Yeah, and it'll keep you up at night.
It's gonna bother me all day. Like, didn't I open this telling you, oh, I've adjusted my day already because I only have limited capacity? I'm gonna have to adjust my day again.
I think my biggest takeaway is that, like, the reason why it's like you said, the reason it's not that I'm not allowed to be joyful, it's that my joy is a threat to you, and that actually has nothing to do with me or my joy.
Right.
Like, if you're a boyfriend sitting amongst all of my girlfriends and you're just pissed off because we're funny and smart and we haven't talked to you in 15 minutes because you're not interesting, that's actually because you're not interesting. We weren't being mean to you. Like, be more interesting.
The other part of it, too, for me, Natalie, is so last night I was sitting on the couch and I had this memory of a boyfriend who used to keep sort of a short beard and he would come up and just like rub my cheek with his cheek. And I love that. So I had this very strong urge to have that feeling again. And it made me realize that the kind of love that I'm looking for is rooted in the two of us loving and adoring each other and being in each other's corner when joyful things happen and supporting those things and just really being like unabashedly, authentically, truly wanting to be together as opposed to, well, this is the structure and the function that we need to do.
Well, and think about how often you've had that relationship with other women, but then think about the opposite where you've encountered a woman who's been made to feel afraid of that sort of love. So then she works against you because our joy has also been used as a bargaining chip and as a scarcity mindset to where we're like, well, if she's happy and if she's pretty, that makes me less happy and me less pretty and me less smart. And who the fuck does she think she is? That's how we got Regina George.
Right.
And I think I'm going to move into my manifestation because when is the last time, honest God, you ran into a mean girl? Because there used to be adult mean girls too.
Oh, I recently had to remove one from my life.
Good for you.
Once I realized that unit was very, very toxic, it was very blinding to me. But then a couple of things happened and some light showed up and I was like, my house. I mean, figuratively house, not in my world. Like, I've since removed those people. But look at how long it took me to think about it. And then prior to that, I couldn't tell you.
I can predate mine back to about a year or two before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at 2018, 2019. And I cut her out of my life because she had recently had a child. And we got into an argument about the validity of pronouns for non-binary and trans people, and I couldn't fucking handle it.
Oh my God.
And I couldn't handle the idea that she was going to raise a child and not be okay if the stupid grammar chart and the stupid grammar books changed to accommodate everybody. Because that was my point. I was like, they'll just change the school curriculum. And I'm just supposed to be okay with that? And I'm like, yeah. Curriculum changes every year, baby. We don't even teach phonics anymore. So anyways, my whole point of like, when's the last time you encountered a mean girl and then let her stick around is I'm not seeing a lot of mean girls anymore. And even the mean girls that I would have categorized as mean girls that I kept in my life because of blood ties, because of necessity, because of whatever, they're kind of reformed. And and my biggest manifestation would be that like more women just gather and be joyful together, and because it's an act of resistance. The Eras tour was an act of resistance.
Beyonce's tour?
Beyonce, act of resistance. The Barbie movie, act of resistance, where she literally threw it in our face like, no, this is an act of resistance. Little Women, my sister and I holding hands, sobbing to Little Women as my brother-in-law just sat and watched and went, well, it's Christmas again. And I'm in a movie theater watching these two morons cry. Act of resistance. When women gather to feel all of the things that is woman, that is feminine, and it's the same across the board. When Black people gather to feel everything that is Black joy, to feel everything that it is to be a Black person, to feel everything that it is to be a queer person, that's why Pride is important. Now I have to start participating in Pride again. God damn it. You know, I got too depressed to participate this month.
I know, but there's something about it, though, because I was thinking about it as, you know, we talked about, let's talk about Marginalized Joy, and I was thinking about it for myself. I was like, I miss being connected to the Black community in the way that I was 20 years ago, but I did so much isolation because of so many things that were happening in my life that were outside influences that I was like, it's just better to stay home because I can't control outside of the door. Not that I was trying to control it, but it was just like, I don't want to experience pain, so I'm staying inside. And I recently realized too that a lot of the safety and comfort that I found in my adolescence was in the queer community. My favorite coffee shop was owned and run by gay men, and their friends showed up, and they taught me what a safe space felt like, and they taught me what it was like to be adored and loved in a way that like I seek from straight men. Which is like, it's like, oh my God. But then too, with the Black community, just that sort, come here, baby, like, let me hug you. Like, just this sort of like, we're here, we're protected because we have each other feeling. When I'm in white spaces, I don't feel that.
Right. And
there's an underlying hostility, and I don't like it.
I know. It's because white people grew up with so much hate, just like in their history.
Mm-hmm.
And like, not in the way that like people of color in the queer community grew up with so much hate in their history because white people were the proponents of the hate.
Right, because in the Black community, it was like, okay, we're turning into each other to comfort and love each other because going out in the world is heinous.
Yeah.
We may not come back.
And I have literal almost to no control over the fact that I live in a world with patriarchy, with misogyny, with capitalistic greed, with white men who abuse power to go to the bottom of the sea to see the Titanic. Mm-hmm. I have little to no control over that, but I have infinite control on how I can find the pockets in these very abusive systems to say, fuck you. Today I will be happy despite you.
Yeah. You ready for my manifestation?
I'm ready.
2024 is coming, or is here, depending on when this airs. This is a very important year. What the summer of 2023 has taught us, Beyonce, Barbie, Taylor Swift, that when we come together, like Natalie said, we can do great things. 53% of white women voted for Trump in 2020, which is up from 2016. So my manifestation is that the energy of summer of 2023 takes us into a very successful election season of 2024, and we have an outcome that doesn't render us more oppressed.
We gotta start feeling okay that it's okay for us to be happy. Because why would we ever change legislation that makes us unhappy if we in turn don't actually feel like it's our right to be happy? And we've been told for centuries that it is not actually our right to be happy, that life is supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be a daily struggle. It's supposed to be a daily chore. But I'm done.
I refuse.
I have a brain and I have a heart, and that brain and that heart will only be focusing every day on why I'm not happy and how do I get back to being happy. Jules, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming up with yet another what the fuck would we call that, premise for an episode. So it's 3 a.m. and I'm locked into a warehouse, and Brennan Lee Mulligan won't let me out because he's hoping I'll play D&D. That's a Dimension 20 joke, but they're always like, it's 3 a.m. in in a warehouse in Fresno.
I just passed Fresno yesterday.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for making sure that the show can live on, because every time we have one conversation, it leads to 3.
I'm just here helping you become the star you are.
That's how we stay in business, baby.
Yes, yes.
Tell everyone where they can find you.
Friends, hello. If you don't know me, I am Julia Washington, and you just spent an hour with me and Natalie on Natalie's show. And you can find me on Instagram, the Julia Washington. I host a little show called Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous, where we analyze pop culture through the lens of race or gender, and sometimes both. I host another little show where we compare book to screen adaptations and all the things literary over there. And you can read my monthly entertainment and culture column in the online magazine known as Jennifer Magazine.
And everyone, this is Natalie Katona with To All the Men I've Tolerated Before. You've heard the commercial at the top of the show for all of the nitty gritty on where to find us. But the most important one that I always plug is the Instagram at Men I've Tolerated Pod, because it is the access point to, I guess, the promised land. And
love that.
I am your Moses when it comes to anti-misogyny work and deprogramming. And remember, out there, tolerators, you don't have to smile through anything you're tolerating, including how uncomfortable you feel because you were joyful for 5 minutes and someone told you it was wrong. Smiles are for joy.